All right, well, good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Art, and I'm the Executive Director for Friends of Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. As you know, we're a 501c3 nonprofit established in 1997 to support Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge with youth development, public use projects, and most recently, land acquisition and restoration. We're located along the southern shore of Lake Erie near Oak Harbor in some of the most critical wetland habitats in all of the world. Some that you get to check out virtually with us today as we celebrate World Migratory Bird Day. Today is going to be a little bit more laid back than some of our other programs. Instead of having a lecture, we're just going to wake up together with coffee or tea in my case, as we check out what's happening this morning behind the Visitor Center in the South Woods. And I'm joined today by Rebecca Lewis, who is the Visitor Services Specialist at Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. She works for the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. And can I tell them how long you've been here, Rebecca?
Sure.
She's celebrating her 25th year of service at the refuge this year. So we're super excited for that. And we're also joined by Dave Myles. Can you pan over to, there you go, there's Dave, who is one of our amazing refuge volunteers, and he's very skilled at spotting birds both by ear and by sight. So together they're going to take us through the South Woods and just see what kind of birds are at the refuge today. Before we get started, we're going to ask that you stay muted just to minimize the background noise so that we can hopefully hear some of the morning bird calls. And if you do have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or type your question in the chat. And if you're willing, please turn on your video as well. I mean, we have a pretty small group here today, so it'd be fun for us to see you as well. Rebecca, where would you like to get started?
Well, as you can see, we're just right here behind the Visitor Center, and oh, I need to pan over there to the, for some reason, I can't zoom today. I could zoom yesterday. This is
the way
so
it goes, right?
Yes, but the purple martins are just everywhere, flying and going back and forth to their houses. We're hearing some distant sandhill cranes. Oh, we got somebody on the feeder. A nice house finch.
Hey, flip it around so we can see you real quick.
Sorry.
There's Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca.
I did just turn the whole camera because that's easier than finding the button.
Right now, the most common bird we're seeing out here, red-winged blackbird, probably the most common bird you'll see out here on the refuge.
So luckily there's nobody living in this box. But at each of our trailheads, we have a bag of, or a box for pet waste disposal. And the one at the other parking lot currently has a prothonotary warbler trying to build a nest in there. We're going to evict it though. It's just a bad choice, and that dark metal will get way too hot if we ever get warm, sunny weather. So we'll make sure it has another suitable location, and then we'll remove its nest material.
Right, flying up above us here is a great egret. They're very common in the summertime here. One other bird you probably just heard, which is very close to us right now, is a yellow warbler. They're probably one of our most common warblers here in the refuge. They come up here. They're one of the first ones to arrive and one of the first ones to leave, but they do breed here. And this is a very big breeding area for the yellow warbler. They really love the Otamalas and the small dogwoods and things like that we have lining all the areas in the refuge and the dikes. So this is a perfect habitat for yellow warbler.
It's also one of the few bird calls I can recognize. Yeah. Sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet. Not that I don't try to learn bird calls, but
Dave, I know you're really skilled with the bird calls. How did you get to be that way, and what tips do you have for other people who are learning to bird by ear?
It's just a lot of practice. Being out in the field. Um, Also, having an app, a bird app on your phone is extremely helpful too. I use the Sibley's, and it's a great bird app that gives you a lot of identification features with photos, and then also voice apps. And you're able to listen to their songs and their calls, and it gives you a good reference. So that is extremely helpful as well. But really, a lot of it is just getting out in the field. First of all, identifying it visually, and then after that, identifying it vocally. So it's just the key thing that I've always told everybody: you can sit in your house all you want, and you can look at all the apps and listen to all the stuff, but nothing's going to help until you actually get out to the field and do it. But it's something that doesn't take it's something that's it's going to take a while to do. It's it's taken me years to do this, and I've been birding for 25 years, and I still struggle with it a little bit. But unfortunately, age does take away your hearing capability, especially the high notes that the warblers present.
We have a non-bird sighting, a little bunny in the bushes.
So this morning it's just a little chilly, windy. So I'm hoping that the wind will, push some of the birds down that are actually out and active, and so hopefully we'll see some good birds as we walk around here. But right now we're just seeing the end of the first wave of migrants that are coming through right now, which are your early arrivals. And it looks like we're going to have some good movement tonight for some of the mid-pack birds, and then in about a week or two we'll see the later warblers coming through, and also the female. So right now we're seeing a lot of the males coming through.
Well, that's good news. I hadn't even checked the forecast yet, but it's Mother's Day tomorrow, and I'm taking myself birding in the morning. Rain or shine. And I think it's going to be rain. It's just amazing this year. I mean, some years we're out here in May and there's hardly a leaf on the tree. And
It's a very early leaf out because of the warm weather we had back in April.
The leaves are regretting it now. So what spring bird do you two look forward to the most?
Spring birds, I like, I like the warblers. They're the most colorful bird that comes through. But also I like the shorebirds as well. And that's a nice thing about Ottawa here. And something that I didn't realize until I actually moved into this area was the amount of diversity that you have here at Ottawa, where in one area you can have 20 to 25 different varieties of warblers, and then you can drive down the road here a half mile, and all of a sudden you got shorebirds all over the place, where you don't see that kind of diversity in a lot of places. You actually almost have to go out to the East Coast to see this kind of habitat. So it really makes it nice. So you can you spend the morning looking at warblers, and then you go out in the afternoon and spend time looking at shorebirds.
I like that answer. I, you know, I love hearing, you know, I like all the firsts that tell you spring is really going to come after a long winter. So that first peent of a woodcock and that first killdeer. Then I realized that the two birds I picked were shorebirds, which is my favorite group of birds. If you do make it to the refuge this year or anywhere in this area, you're going to notice an abundance of shorebird habitat. And that's outstanding. It's wonderful for the birds. It's making it good and bad for birders because there's so much habitat that they're not concentrated. But it's mostly due to the construction projects that are happening. They all kind of came on at once. So McGee has a huge construction project, and we tied one of ours in with theirs because that makes it easier for us to drain some of our wetlands. And then we had another one on the wildlife drive. So there are shorebirds all over this year.
Right now we have some mourning doves that are calling, and I also heard a house wren back here in the woods. So it's hopefully going to pick up here a little bit. Now the sun's just starting to get a little higher here, so it'll help warm things up, get the bugs moving, and get the birds moving here before long.
So in the past, just off to the east of the boardwalk, right where you're at right now, there was a prothonotary warbler that nested right back in that habitat. Any signs of that yet this year, or do you think that's the one that was trying to use the dog waste bags?
Haven't seen one yet, but I know they just came in last week, I guess they showed up.
Rebecca, there's a question in the chat about what early spring warblers we're seeing and hearing right now.
Do you mean right now as in while we're standing here, or in general what people are seeing?
I think what Meg's looking for in general, what's out already this year.
Yellow rumped, palms, common yellow throat.
Yeah, they're seeing a pretty good variety of warblers right now. You know, I think yesterday we were out and had 13 different species of warblers. So you're seeing starting to see a lot of red starts as well. You got the black-throated blue, black-throated greens, and we actually a couple of days ago had our first Cape May, which is a mid-pack bird that comes through. So he was kind of early. So it's and of course, you know, your yellows, and I would say probably the biggest or the biggest number of warblers in here right now are yellows, are probably surpassing the yellow rumps. The yellow rumps and palm warblers were really heavy in here earlier this week, and you're starting to see some movement of them now heading out. And now we're getting some of the mid-pack birds coming in to replace them. And I think we'll probably see a bigger percentage of them coming in tonight. We're also seeing a good number of Blackburnian warblers as well, which is one of my favorite warblers. The color in Blackburnian is just second to none as far as color goes. They just have fiery throat that they have. It's just amazing.
See, like you said, going out and seeing things makes it easier to remember. I've been trapped by the computer a little bit this year, so I was trying to remember the list of birds that I've read that people are seeing.
But on top of that, you know, we're also seeing a lot of Orioles. So we're seeing Baltimore Orioles. I had the 2 orchard Orioles in my backyard yesterday. The hummingbirds are coming through now. So, you know, and then you also have your shorebirds out here as well. So we got a lot of egrets, a lot of green herons, great blue herons. Yesterday, they reported 2 marble godwits right out here on the auto tour. We had a black-bellied plover out there. Earlier this week, we had about 100 American golden plovers, a big flock of them that were out here. And even just a week ago, we also had a Swainson's hawk out here, which is a very rare hawk in this area. You know, they're a western hawk, and every once in a while you get one, you know, a migrant that comes through. He gets blown off course, and he stuck around for about a week and gave everybody great views out there. So yeah, so it's been a really good spring so far.
And I should mention today is World Migratory Bird Day. So it's the day chosen to celebrate the migrants and the amazing journey that our migrating birds make every year. And also to call attention to the perils that they encounter while they're making that trip.
Now, this section that we're coming to here is the trail that actually goes out to the ranger station here. And it's a fairly long trail. I would say about, you know, a good 150 yards, but there's trees on both sides here. And this is a great place to come birding for warblers when a big movement comes through. I've hit this trail when the boardwalk was so packed with people you couldn't move, and literally just have this trail to myself, and had 23 species of warblers within an hour and a half. So this is a great place to come if you know, you get tired of the crowds and just want a nice peaceful walk. And this spot right here is just a great place to just slowly walk up and down and listen and look, and it'll produce a lot of good birds in here. I've seen probably in the last 5 years over 30 species of warblers just on this path alone. Also, scarlet tanagers and summer tanagers can be common in the woods here as well. This time of year, they don't stick around in the summer, but they do migrate through. Every once in a while, you'll get a summer tanager that'll get too far north up here. They're a southern tanager. You see them down in the Carolinas more frequently. That's where they breed. Up here, you get a lot of scarlet tanagers that'll move through. So they're not uncommon to see them, you know, flying around the woods up here during this time of year before moving north.
I'm hearing a distant catbird. I love catbirds. And when we stopped back at that corner, I just remembered that a number of years ago, at that corner was where I saw my first ever yellow-billed and black-billed cuckoos in the same binocular view. I'm not sure that will ever happen again.
I don't think I've ever had that.
It was an unusual occurrence.
I've had yellow-billed pretty frequently each year in the corner that you're coming up to, just past the ranger station. I don't know if they nest in there, but that seems to be a really good spot to check them out too. Never had them both at the same time, though. Apparently that's reserved for rangers.
Yeah, the cuckoos should arrive up here in about another week or two. They're sort of a mid-pack bird when they come through. For a couple of years, there was a phoebe nest on the back of the ranger station here, and the phoebes used it. It was, I think, 2 or 3 years they were using that nest. And fortunately, I think the nest finally gave way this winter. It's not there anymore, but I'm sure the phoebes will find other places to go. I've not seen one yet this spring, actually, but I'm sure that they're around. Flycatchers are another great bird, but very difficult to identify. Matter of fact, a lot of the smaller flycatchers are only identified by sound because they look so much alike. There's some sandhill cranes calling out in the back here.
We've also in the past had phoebes nest under the green bridge on the trail that we crossed a little while ago.
Oh, and yesterday we also had our first rose-breasted grosbeak in our backyard. They've been in, I've seen them in the woods here over the past week. So they're one of the earlier migrants that come through. But they, if you know that you have rose-breasted grosbeaks that come through your area, definitely get in your feeders, put out softflower. Softflower is a great food source for them. For whatever reason, it really attracts them. And I've had as many as 10 grosbeaks on my softflower feeder at one time. So that's a great great bird seed to have out in your feeder if you want some rose-breasted grosbeaks.
And I've only had one rose-breasted grosbeak so far.
Rebecca, I have a mini bird watcher here who would like to know where she can find some kingfishers.
Well, there's 2 places that I see them the most. The entrance road that goes up towards the trailhead or the maintenance shop. They like that ditch on the west side. Vila Road usually has some at the end of the wildlife, outside of the wildlife drive. They sit on the power lines there.
I've had really good luck at the Middle Two Saint unit, that new kayak access. That's been a good one. It's out on North Two Saint Road.
I've been noticing more and more people hiking that trail along the river. That would be a great spot for them. So kind of a weird story. My parents live in Wisconsin, but left over from when they built their house and dug their basement, there was a big pile of dirt that, when they need dirt, they take it from this pile. And one year something was digging holes in the side, and my mom is like, oh, I don't know what's living in there, but something made a burrow. And so she started paying attention, and she called me. She said, you aren't going to believe what's living in there. And it was kingfishers nesting in her. Yep. I don't know if you could hear that, but wood ducks were flying over. She had kingfishers nesting in her dirt pile. And I guess the strangest thing is they don't live anywhere near water. They live on the top of a big hill on the edge of the forest. So they never did it again. So maybe they figured out they need to go too far for food.
Yeah, one thing that you definitely will kick up as you're walking around the refuge here with all the dikes and waterways around here are wood ducks. And we just picked up a couple here as we were walking through. But it's they have a very high pitched sound when they fly, so pretty easy to identify. But there's it's unusual to see at least a dozen wood ducks as you walk around here, and you see especially some of these ditches here, they're lined with woods.
Some of our photographers that come to the refuge regularly were trying to get wood duck photos this spring, and they were frustrating them a lot. And they said you can only get so close and then they fly. And I said, yeah. And then they laugh at you while they're doing it because their call sounds like they're laughing in my mind. It's one of the few I can recognize too. So if you haven't been to the refuge in a while, you're going to see that we cut down a lot of trees around the ranger station, but they had died and they were endangering the building, which cost quite a bit of money. So we had to take them down, but there's already new trees coming up in their place, and they're looking very nice since they had that sunlight opened up when the trees died. Speaking of sunlight, the clouds have broken and the sun's coming into the woods. And maybe now that those trees aren't there, we'll get some pawpaws on our pawpaw plants.
Yeah, most of the birds I'm hearing right now are kind of your resident birds that we have here, your robins, your cardinals. There's a flock of shorebirds flying overhead. They look like eight lesser yellow legs are flying overhead here. The cardinal calling in the background. Yeah, a lot of times birding takes a lot of patience as well. A a lot of people tend to move too quickly through the woods, and as you're birding, and sometimes it's good to just kind of sit for a while and let the birds come to you. They're out here, but it's you know, sometimes it's just not where you're at, but they do move around quite a bit. I hear a house wren out here in the distance.
I've got a question for the two of you. What's your favorite time to go birding? Time of day.
I like early as possible. It's quiet except for the birds. There's not a lot of people.
Yeah, I'd say morning as well. That's when the birds tend to be more active. They get up, they're hungry, they want to eat. So that's a lot. It's a much better time. I've been out many times where the birds will be extremely active, and then at about 11 o'clock in the morning, they just shut down. And you know, all of a sudden, you're just not hearing or seeing anything. So to me, morning is definitely the best time to get out. But I'll, you know, now that I'm retired, I can come out and bird anytime I want to. So it's anytime I can get out and bird is the best time for me. And I have a downy woodpecker just flew up into the tree here. Also hearing blue jays now. Blue jays are starting to wake up a little bit. This is one area that's very you know, unique here for the blue jay, primarily because, you know, blue jays migrate. A lot of people don't think about blue jays migrating, but they do migrate quite a bit. You will see some that will hang out in the wintertime here, but majority do migrate. And they're strange where they'll actually migrate up north here, and then for some reason they hit Lake Erie and they stop. They see that big lake, they stop, and they won't go any further until they get the right winds. And they'll literally fly by the hundreds up and down Lake Erie here all day long, just waiting for the right time to go. And of course, you know, right now they're just taking over my feeders. I'll have 20 blue jays in my backyard now, just eating away. Hearing a white-breasted nuthatch here as well.
I feel like this year other people noticed the blue jays a lot, and I don't think I've ever had my yard filled with as many as I did this year. So I don't know if they just hung out a little longer, stayed a little lower. People just were noticing them more.
Do you think it has anything to do with people being home more with COVID restrictions still?
That's certainly a possibility.
I think in the last year, I've noticed way more birds in my yard than I ever did before.
Definitely.
And I'm also hearing a Baltimore Oriole calling. There's a house wren out here. That's one thing about bird sounds as well. They do make different sounds. Right now I'm hearing 2 white-breasted nuthatches making two completely different sounds. So that's another thing about the birds here. They'll tend to, trick you and, make one sound, and then the next thing you know, they're making another sound. So that's another thing you got to train your ear for, the many different sounds that they make. So right now we're kind of getting a chorus of white-breasted nuthatches here. And I also have a red-breasted nuthatch. But red-breasted nuthatches has been an extremely big year for them, starting last fall. I guess due to the food source up north, we had a huge migration of them coming down. They came down last fall, came through this area, went south, and now they're migrating back north again. But I had two red-breasted nuthatches at my feeders all winter long this year. So I have a red-bellied woodpecker out here calling.
Have either of you seen the red-headed woodpeckers out there this year?
Not here. We did. They were breeding out here in the Northwoods for, I'd say, at least 3 years, and we have not seen them since last fall. So I'm not sure. They may have just moved on, but they are in the area. I do see them frequently. I haven't seen any here yet this spring, but in the surrounding area here, you will see them. We had, matter of fact, Sheldon Marsh is a great place to go see redhead woodpeckers. They seem to have a great population of them there. But they seem to be coming back. I know over the years I'm seeing them more and more, and which is a good thing. So because they're my favorite woodpecker.
They're stunning.
Yeah.
And as I pan across, there's a lot of dead trees out here. And when emerald ash borer came in and we started to see our trees dying, and it was horrifying and sad. And we were like, well, you look on the bright side, there's going to be great woodpecker habitat. And we've definitely seen some changes in that. Also, the woods is not decimated. It's different, but there's a lot of other trees coming in, and hopefully all those ash can come back soon. So I don't know if this is normal, but a lot of times for me, birds are attached to some memories, so people, what's your favorite bird? And I have about 50 favorite birds. But talking about nuthatches remind me of my mom, because she puts out her feeder and gets amazing birds. But she's learning them slowly. She always would say, I have that bird on my feeder that looks like a chickadee, but isn't. And that was the white-breasted nuthatch. So nuthatches make me think of my mom and home. And you should, if you're out here in the woods, you shouldn't forget to look down because there's lots of beautiful wildflowers blooming too. But the trails are also completely bordered by poison ivy, so don't go into the wildflowers.
Thought I heard a vireo off in the background. Could have been a red-eyed vireo. It was a little far back. I'm not completely sure. I definitely know it's a vireo, but the vireos are coming in, pretty heavy now, especially the warbling vireo. Yesterday, the warbling vireos were out everywhere. You literally had to tune their voice down because they kind of overpower everything else that's going on around you. There were so many of them out. And the warbling vireos right here is probably one of the more common ones that actually stay here and breed along with the red-eyed vireo. Thrushes are another bird that's actually moving through right now. Hermit thrushes are is a bird that will tend to, a few will stick around here during the winter, but they will be the first ones to migrate through, and a lot of them have already moved on. And now they're being backfilled with Swainson's thrushes and also great cheek thrushes, wood thrushes, and berries. All those thrushes are now moving through this area, and there's, they're what I call ground pounders. They tend to be on the ground. They're low flying birds, and there's quite a few of them around. But now we're getting the green foliage here on the bottom kind of taken over, so a little harder to find and see. And then also oven birds. Oven birds are also on the ground quite a bit, and so they're getting a little harder to find now with all the green understory here.
Do either of you photograph birds too, or do you mainly just go out with your binoculars?
I poorly photograph birds. I get pretty out of practice because I do it intermittently, but I try.
Yeah, bird photography can be a lot of fun and rewarding, but takes an awful lot of patience and work. And work being after your day of shooting and having to go through your probably thousands of photos that you do with today's technology now, and the digital photographs that are being used today. It's you can go through so many photographs, but then you have to go back, you have to go through them and pick out the ones that you want. You can spend hours and hours afterwards just going through all of your photographs. That's a Baltimore Oriole calling out here.
We do have a workshop coming up that's called Non-Technical Photography Tricks and Tips to Get Fabulous Pictures of Birds All Year Long. So I'm going to drop a link for that in the chat. And also it'll be all the other programs that you can check out for and join us for free. But that could help anyone who's getting started with bird photography. I know I try myself, Rebecca. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sorry, I'm full of questions this morning. One more for you. Do you, because you guys are both experienced birders, do you still keep a life list or a journal of all the birds you've seen?
That's a great question.
I have very disorganized lists, and someday I should write them all down, because I think I've passed a few big milestones, and it would, again, you know, attaching those memories to things, it would be really fun to know what my 1000th bird was.
Yeah, and I've kept lists over the years, but I think the list that I keep up the most is probably my yard bird list. That's the one I enjoy keeping, and you know, trying to, you know, look for that next new yard bird that, you know, comes through. It kind of keeps you active all the time, and, you know, looking at your yard, trying to you know, find that that next new yard bird that comes through. You know, right now I think in our yard we've had I think just a little over 150 species of birds in our yard. So that gives you an idea, just, you know, how many birds you can have coming through your yard, and you just really don't know until you actually, you know, keep your binoculars close by and look at your backyard and your feeders, get your feeders up. I think we probably have about 15 feeders in our yard, and we, you know, we keep them full, and we just kind of watch the birds as they migrate through in the spring and migrate back through in the fall.
I used to keep a bathroom window list. I lived in a house that had an unobstructed view into a little pond, I guess. They dug the dirt out to use for something, and it was surrounded by trees and had a whole shrub layer, and there was a wood duck box on it. So green herons nested somewhere in those shrubs, and I saw my lifer magnolia warbler about 2 feet out the window sitting on a branch, and it was a pretty amazing bathroom window.
Yeah, we've even got to the point where, you know, we almost have a set of binoculars in different rooms in our house here, where you know, my wife has gone out and picked up you know, a decent pair that you know, doesn't really cost very much, that, you know, she'll find at thrift shops or something like that, and we'll just kind of keep a pair in each room, because you can't, you know, have your binoculars with you all the time, but it's a great place to be able to, you know, just have them ready and look up, because we, you know, I've had a couple of yard birds where I've only seen it once, and, you know, it's there, and, you know, 10 seconds later it's gone and never to be seen again.
Well, we have about 10 minutes left. If anyone has any questions you'd like to ask Dave or Rebecca, feel free to unmute and chime in, or type your questions into the chat.
Yeah, Dave, when he mentioned all the binoculars, it made me think that, this time of year when I'm at work, in a normal year when I'm at work, I'm working at home right now. So they do sit on the windowsill, but, I go into work in the morning with my binoculars around my neck, and I go to lunch with my binoculars. I do everything because you just don't know when somebody's going to say there's a such and such outside, and you don't want to be without them because it's just such an exciting time. I hear more wood ducks.
Rebecca, where are you going to spend your Mother's Day birding?
I actually have, I got reservations at McGee tomorrow morning at 9. So I'll probably do the estuary trail earlier than that and then go on to the boardwalk.
What a perfect Mother's Day treat.
Yeah. And then I was a little sad because Sam actually said he'd like to go. Sam is my son, who birded as a very little boy. And then he kind of got out of it. And now he'd like to come out with me. And he doesn't have a reservation. So.
Can you put him in a backpack carrier?
He could put me in a backpack.
I was just going to say that.
We have an intern who's an amazing birder, and we've been putting out reports of what's been being seen, and they typically come from him. He e-birds everywhere that he's going during the day. And so I said something about Sam and I were going to go look for the prothonotary because I said he'd seen one at some point, but he doesn't remember. I said, that's the trouble with when he, started birding so little. Said he saw a golden winged warbler when he was 5. And that just hurt Trevor. He's like, I saw my first one 2 years ago. Of course, he's, in his 20s. I'm like, well, he lives here. He actually saw his golden winged warbler before I did.
I think one bird that we haven't mentioned, which is probably one of the most popular birds we have here on the refuge and in this area, are the bald eagles. So there's another great place to come and look at the bald eagles. There's, I think, 19 active nests just right here on the refuge alone. But in the county, they did a survey last year, and I think we have close to 90 documented nesting sites here in Ottawa County. So it's very difficult to go anywhere on the refuge without seeing bald eagles.
And there's all but one of the nests on the refuge have chicks right now. So you'll see the adults actively feeding. And I've had people say, well, I suppose you get tired of seeing them. And no, I never get tired of seeing them. They just amaze me all the time.
I was on that the Cedar Point Refuge drive-through yesterday with Jason. I saw 25 at least eagles, mostly immature, but they were everywhere.
Yep, it's just unbelievable. And I think there's 4 nests on Cedar Point property, but then, of course, there's more in the surrounding areas.
Right. But it was a pretty nice trip. We saw a lot of different birds.
Jason's an excellent guide too. He's also really gifted with birding by ear.
Oh, I know. I've been on trips with him before, but yeah, you're right. He is. I was glad to see when I heard it was him. I'm like, all right, we'll see something because he'll hear them. Fine.
Yeah, he's great. Well, we're coming up on 8 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and drop a link into the chat. If you would, please take a moment and fill out our survey. It should only take you about a minute, and then you'll receive a special coupon code for the Rookery Nature Store. And if you happen to purchase anything, Julia is on our call right now. She will be the one who assists you. So it's coming your way.
I was gonna say, I recognize a lot of the names from previous orders, so I know we have some shoppers in the room today.
Definitely.
And keep checking out the store because every time I look, there's something new and cool that I need to have.
Yeah,
Oh, there's new shirts she just got in.
She's always getting good stuff in there.
I know. I just updated the website too, so it might look a little different, but I hope it makes your shopping experience easier. But yes, there will be tons of new items coming soon on there, so keep checking back.
Is that a blue sky I see?
Yes.
I need some of that at my house. All I see is clouds.
I think it's coming.
Good.
Are those humans?
Yep. Sorry. I tried not to.
It might have been the first spotting of other humans.
We've seen a few, but I tried not to, invade their privacy. I failed on that one.
So Rebecca, if people wanted to come out and visit today, if they're local here, what can they do?
All of the hiking trails are open except for the I always say that the triangle shaped section in the North Woods because of bald eagle nest. The wildlife drive opened at dawn and the entrance closes 1 hour before sunset. There's food vendors here. I think it's the Perch Wagon and Traveling Chef today.
Yep.
Today. Julia will have the store open.
I will. If you need a new coffee mug.
Jessica, our intern, will be helping out giving information in the morning this morning.
And the goods section of the wildlife drive is open now, right?
Yes, the one around
Okay.
Pool 3 in the far northeast corner, where not only do warblers like that corner, but that's where a lot of the shorebirds have been being seen, including black-necked stilts. Oh, we have tree swallows sitting on the boardwalk today, waiting for that sun to warm them up.
Any final questions today for Dave or Rebecca or comments?
I did want to add, if you come out to, if you do come out to the refuge, check the front of the visitor center. There are cliff swallows building nests.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of a new thing. They nested on the building last year, but it wasn't quite so obvious.
Careful where you stand though. My kiddos were enjoying watching them build their nest, but they kept dropping mud on their heads. So don't get too close.
Rebecca, Vince says, thanks for letting us tag along.
It was nice spending my morning with you all.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. And I hope that if you're able, you get out and you visit Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge during migration and see some of the things that Rebecca and Dave were talking about today. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Dave and Rebecca, for spending your time and taking us on a little stroll here. Look at that shot of that building. Doesn't that look beautiful?
That beautiful building.
I hope we can get back in there soon.
I miss it.
I do too. All right, well, thanks again, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend.